"Dad, do
Hey,
you hear
can
that?"
you hear me?
The voice was small,
We need to get you
almost
out of
lost
here.
in the wind, but Carter Daniels froze mid-step. The blizzard howled around them, muffling sound and sight alike, yet his 7-year-old son's words carried a chill that pierced deeper than the snow ever could. Rex, the German shepherd padding ahead of them, suddenly stiffened. His ears shot up, tail rigid, and then, with a force that startled both father and son, he erupted into furious barking. The dog lunged toward the side of the snow-buried road, claws tearing into the white crust. His growls were sharp, guttural, more primal than Carter had heard in years. "Rex? Easy, boy," Carter muttered, his own instincts prickling awake. The leash burned against his glove as the dog pulled harder, digging frantically at the snow near the guardrail of Old Creek Bridge. The bridge, even in daylight, was a lonely crossing over black water. But now, under pre-dawn darkness, it looked like a frozen skeleton stretched across nothingness. Carter had walked this route 100 times during winter mornings. He knew every crack in the asphalt, every bend of the river below. But tonight something was wrong. "Dad, what's happening?" Benny's voice trembled. His pajamas peeked out from beneath his oversized coat. Mismatched mittens clutched at Carter's arm. Carter squatted, gripping the boy's shoulders, forcing calm into his voice. "Stay behind me. Whatever this is, let Rex work." The snow wasn't right. Carter's eyes narrowed as he scanned the drift Rex was attacking. The mound rose higher than natural, almost sculpted, as though the blizzard had tried to conceal something. And then, beneath Rex's frantic paws, a sharp metallic clang cut through the storm. Carter's pulse surged. He clawed away at the snow himself now, numb fingers working with a soldier's urgency. An icy sheen cracked off metal. A wheel, a shattered headlight, and then, oh God! The beam of his flashlight swept over twisted steel. A police cruiser lay crushed on its side, half buried, glass spiderwebbed and streaked with crimson. The Colorado State Police insignia was barely visible through the frost. Benny gasped, covering his mouth. "Dad, is someone inside?" Rex barked again, louder, pawing at the driver's side door. Carter yanked the handle frozen solid. He braced his boot against the mangled fender, forcing it open with a screech of protesting metal. A gust of icy wind carried a coppery smell he knew too well: blood. Inside, an officer hung limp, her seatbelt cutting into her shoulder, her uniform soaked dark. Her lips quivered, skin paler than the snow around her. Blood matted her hairline. Her eyes fluttered open for a fraction of a second. "Officer Hayes, badge number 247. The words tumbled out like a prayer. Her teeth chattered violently, and then her head slumped sideways. Damn it! Carter's soldier instincts kicked in, shoving panic aside. He reached for her belt buckle, but before he could unclip it, Rex froze mid-bark. The German shepherd's body went stone still, hackles bristling, his eyes fixed on the tree line. Carter's breath caught. He scanned the woods. Nothing but the endless dark of pines swaying under the storm. But something was there. He felt it, watching, waiting. "Dad!" Benny's whisper sliced through him. "Stay down, Benny." Carter's voice was low, urgent. His hands moved faster now, wrenching the seatbelt free, ignoring the metal bite against his gloves. The officer's body sagged into his arms, colder than ice. Her breaths came shallow, faint clouds barely visible in the frozen air. "Hang in there," he muttered, lifting her against his chest. "You're not dying here. Not on my watch." Rex growled again, circling them, every nerve in his body alive with warning. Carter didn't wait to find out what stalked them from the trees. He adjusted the woman's limp weight and began the long trudge back to the house. Each step was agony. Boots sinking deep into untouched snow, lungs burning with cold fire. The woman's head lolled against his shoulder, blood staining his jacket. Rex stayed ahead, glancing back constantly, guiding them through the storm like a soldier guarding his squad. The ranch house finally emerged from the white void, a warm glow through frosted windows, their only beacon. Carter staggered inside, kicking the door shut behind him. He laid the woman onto the leather couch by the stone fireplace. The fire's embers hissed weakly, struggling against the cold. Rex stationed himself at the window, ears perked, body taut as a drawn bow. "Dad?" Carter turned. Benny stood on the stairs in his superhero pajamas, hair sticking up, wide eyes flickering between the bloodied officer and the growling dog. "What's happening? Why's Rex acting weird?" Carter grabbed towels, his movements automatic, honed from years of military triage and fatherhood. "There was an accident, buddy. This lady needs our help." The officer's skin was ice beneath his fingers. A deep gash marred her forehead. Her breath stuttered. Carter wrapped her in the heaviest blanket they had. Melissa's blanket, crocheted by his late wife before she passed. The woman stirred. Her lips moved, whispering soundless words. Then her eyes opened, unfocused, drifting between Carter's face, the photographs on the mantel, Benny hovering uncertainly. "Easy," Carter said softly. "You were in a car accident. You're safe now." The woman's gaze steadied, if only for a moment. Joanna Hayes." Her voice was cracked, weak. "Badge 247. She repeated it as if she might forget otherwise. Rex padded forward, sniffing her trembling hand, tail lowered but steady. He sat beside her like a sentinel, protective, almost reverent. Benny crept closer. His voice, soft but blunt. "You have a gun." Joanna blinked down at her holster, as though surprised it was still there. Her expression flickered between confusion and dread. She gave Benny a weak smile. "It's part of my job, sweetheart. Like your dad's tools in the garage." Her hands tightened on the mug of hot chocolate Carter passed her, steam fogging her pale face. The radio at her belt crackled suddenly, dispatch voices echoing. Joanna froze. Rex did too, growling low, trembling like a wire. "You should check in with them," Carter said carefully. Her knuckles whitened around the mug. She shook her head, hair falling across her face. "Not yet. Roads are too dangerous. I need to think, to figure out what happened." Her eyes flicked toward Rex. Something in that look unsettled Carter, recognition almost. The dog's tail thumped once. Benny, fearless as always, crawled closer. "What was your dog's name? The one you had before?" Joanna hesitated. Her gaze lingered on Rex. Her lips trembled. "Bruno." At that word, Rex's ears flicked. His tail wagged suddenly, body pressing closer against her legs. His eyes shone with a spark Carter hadn't seen since Melissa's death. Recognition, grief, something more. Carter's chest tightened. This wasn't coincidence. Outside, the blizzard wailed against the glass. But inside, the silence was heavier, more suffocating than snow. Carter didn't know it yet. Neither did Benny. But this storm had dragged far more than an injured officer into their lives. It had brought back ghosts, secrets, and enemies who would stop at nothing to silence them. And in that quiet living room, by the crackle of the dying fire, the first threads of a story far bigger than survival had just begun. The storm had eased by morning, but the world outside was still a frozen graveyard. The snow lay heavy, muffling every sound. Inside the Daniels Ranch house, the air smelled faintly of smoke and boiled coffee. Carter stood at the kitchen counter, hands braced against the wood, staring into the dark swirl of his mug. He hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the cruiser buried under snow, the blood dripping across twisted steel. Behind him, the crackle of the fireplace punctuated Joanna's shallow breathing. She stirred restlessly on the couch, bundled in blankets, Rex's head resting on her lap as though he had appointed himself her personal guard. Benny was curled in the recliner, feet tucked under him, one hand gripping the old stuffed bear that had survived every move since Melissa's death. He was awake, though, Carter knew, pretending to sleep, but his eyes flicked open every time Joanna shifted. The radio on Joanna's belt had gone quiet again. It had burst to life just after dawn. Voices calling her name, badge number, demanding status. But Joanna had snapped the volume down, jaw clenched. She hadn't explained why. Carter's patience was running thin. He turned from the counter, footsteps slow, steady. "We need to talk, Officer Hayes." Her eyes cracked open, wary, guarded. Rex's ears flicked. "Joanna," she corrected softly. "Just Joanna." "Fine, Joanna." Carter crouched in front of her, his voice low but firm. "Why didn't you answer that radio? You could have told them you're alive. You could have had backup here by now." Her lips parted, but silence stretched before words finally came. "Because I don't know who's listening." That stopped him cold. Before Carter could press, the sound of tires crunching against snow made every head in the room snap toward the window. Rex leapt off the couch, a snarl tearing out of him, paws braced against the sill. A black SUV crawled up the drive, snow chains clinking on its wheels. The sheriff's star was stenciled faintly on the side. Benny whispered, "Dad?" Carter straightened. His gut tightened. Not good timing. A heavy knock rattled the door. "Carter Daniels?" The voice boomed through the wood. "Sheriff Alden. Need a word." Joanna's fingers dug into the blanket, her entire body tense. "Don't tell him I'm here." Carter froze. "What? Please." Her eyes locked on his. Desperate, urgent. "Not yet." Rex barked again, deeper this time as though agreeing. Another knock, sharper, impatient. Carter exhaled slowly, masking the storm inside him. He opened the door. Sheriff Alden stood on the porch, a thick man with a face carved from stone and eyes that never stopped calculating. Snow crusted his boots, his coat hung heavy with frost. Behind him, a deputy adjusted his hat, scanning the property. "Morning, Sheriff," Carter said evenly. Alden's gaze swept over him, then past his shoulder into the house. "Heard there was a cruiser went missing last night. Dispatch says Officer Joanna Hayes hasn't checked in." Carter's jaw tightened. "You're here early." Storms got the whole county on edge. Alden's eyes narrowed, catching the faint trace of blood on Carter's sleeve before Carter could tuck it out of sight. "Mind if I step inside?" It wasn't a question. Carter stepped aside, his pulse hammering. The sheriff entered, his boots heavy on the wood floor. His deputy lingered near the door, eyes sweeping like a hawk. Inside, Alden's gaze landed on the fireplace. The blankets, the faint steam rising from an extra mug of coffee on the table. His eyes sharpened. "You've got company." Carter forced a shrug. "My boy, you know that." Benny peeked from the recliner, the stuffed bear clutched tight. "And?" Alden's gaze was cutting. "Any other company?" Before Carter could answer, a soft creak betrayed movement on the couch. Joanna, half hidden by the armrest, stirred. The sheriff's eyes darted past Carter, sharp, predatory. "Officer Hayes." His tone was flat, unreadable. Joanna's face was pale, her attempt at composure faltering. She sat up slowly, tugging the blanket closer around her shoulders. Rex growled, low and steady, his body between her and Alden. "Sheriff," she said, voice hoarse. Alden's expression didn't shift. He tipped his hat a fraction. "Hell of a storm to crash your cruiser. You're lucky Daniels here found you." Her lips pressed thin. "Yes, lucky." The silence that followed was suffocating. Carter's instincts screamed that this wasn't concern. It was interrogation. Finally, Alden turned toward him. "Daniels, I'll need a statement. Every detail. When, where, what condition you found her in." Joanna flinched just slightly. Carter caught it. He crossed his arms. "She needs rest. She was half dead when I pulled her out." Alden stepped closer, towering. "That wasn't a suggestion." Rex's growl deepened, teeth flashing. The deputy's hand drifted toward his sidearm. Carter stepped between them, voice low but sharp. "Your man so much as twitches, he won't walk out of here. Call your dogs off." A beat of silence. Alden's cold eyes met his. Then, with a flick of his hand, the deputy eased back. The sheriff leaned in close enough that Carter could smell his stale coffee breath. "Watch yourself, Daniels. This isn't Iraq. You don't call the shots here." Carter didn't blink. "In this house, I do." The tension stretched, heavy as the storm outside. Finally, Alden gave a thin smile that never touched his eyes. "Fine. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere." He tipped his hat again, mock respect, and turned. The deputy followed, casting one last look over his shoulder. The door shut. Silence returned, except for Rex's steady growl fading into a whine. Carter turned to Joanna. "You want to explain what the hell that was?" Her hands shook as she clutched the blanket tighter. Her voice cracked. "The sheriff. He's not what he seems. None of them are." Benny's eyes widened, whispering from the recliner. "Dad, what does she mean?" Carter's gut twisted, because deep down he already knew the answer. And outside, through the snow-thick glass, the sheriff's SUV idled at the end of the drive longer than it should have, watching, waiting. The fire burned low, embers glowing like dying stars. Outside, the storm had softened into a cruel silence. Snow draped over the land like a burial shroud. Inside, the ranch house felt smaller than ever. Joanna sat at the kitchen table, Melissa's blanket still wrapped around her shoulders. Her hands trembled as she cupped the mug of tea Carter had forced into them. The steam rose, but she didn't drink. She just stared at it, as if afraid of her own reflection in the dark surface. Benny sat opposite her, his stuffed bear on the table, eyes bouncing between the adults with the blunt curiosity only children had. Rex lay at Joanna's feet, his chin pressed against her boot, as though nothing else in the world existed but her. Carter stood by the window, watching the tracks Alden's SUV had left in the snow. They didn't sit right. Too long. Too deliberate. Finally, he broke the silence. "Start talking." Joanna's eyes flicked up, wary. "You said the sheriff isn't what he seems," Carter pressed. "You said you couldn't answer dispatch. That's not just paranoia. That's survival instinct. So tell me, what the hell are you running from?" Her lips parted, then closed again. She shook her head. "It's not safe. Not for you. Not for your boy." Benny's small voice cut in, fearless. "Is it bad men? Are they coming?" Joanna froze. The blanket slipped from her shoulders. Her hand reached down, brushing Rex's fur as if drawing strength. "Finally," she whispered, "it started 2 months ago. A traffic stop. Routine. Or it should have been. Except the man I pulled over wasn't just anyone. He was connected." Carter's brow furrowed. "Connected how?" She swallowed hard. "Cartels. Dirty money flowing through this county. Drugs. Guns. And people in uniform looking the other way. When I refused to bury the report," her voice cracked, "they buried me instead." The room went still. Carter felt his pulse hammering. He'd seen this pattern overseas. Corruption eating a place from the inside out. Soldiers fighting shadows, never knowing which ally would pull the trigger. Joanna's eyes glistened. "They killed my partner. Staged it like an accident. I was next, so I ran. But I couldn't disappear. I needed evidence. Proof." Benny hugged his bear tighter. "That's why the sheriff was mean to you." Her voice softened, breaking. "Sheriff Alden isn't just dirty. He's the one pulling the strings." Carter turned, fists clenching. "And now he knows you're alive." She nodded. Silence fell again. Then Rex, almost on cue, lifted his head, pressing his muzzle into her hand. Joanna's lips trembled. "Bruno, he used to do that. Every time I cried." Carter's chest tightened. "Bruno? My old K9, she whispered. "He died years ago, saving me." Her eyes searched Rex's, desperate, broken. "But when I look at him, it feels like Bruno never left." Rex thumped his tail against the floor, eyes locked with hers in a way Carter had never seen before. Benny whispered in awe, "Maybe dogs come back too." The thought hung in the air, fragile and haunting. Carter broke it, voice firm. "Reincarnation or not, Rex sees something in you. But that doesn't change the fact Alden's not going to wait forever. We need to move." Joanna's head snapped up. "Move? Where?" "Anywhere but here." Carter's tone left no room for argument. "He'll be back. And next time he won't knock." Before Joanna could respond, Rex suddenly bolted upright, ears pricked, growl vibrating deep in his chest. Carter stiffened. "What is it, boy?" The dog stalked toward the back door, teeth bared. Then crack. A branch snapped outside. Too deliberate. Too close. Carter killed the lantern, plunging the room into dim firelight. His voice was a whisper, sharp as a blade. "Down. Both of you." Benny slid under the table, clutching his bear. Joanna ducked low, pulling Rex close. Carter crept to the gun cabinet, fingers finding the cold steel of his rifle. His breath was steady, soldier calm flooding him. Through the frost on the window, he caught it. A shadow moving between trees. Slow, careful, watching the house. Not Alden. Someone else. Carter's gut sank. This wasn't just corruption anymore. This was a hunt, and they had already been marked as prey. The house seemed to shrink with every passing second. The storm outside muffled the world, but Carter's soldier instincts picked out the sounds that didn't belong. The crunch of boots sinking into snow, the whisper of branches brushing against coats. They were being surrounded. Rex pressed against the back door, body taut, ears flat, a growl rumbling like distant thunder. His teeth flashed in the dim glow of the firelight. Joanna crouched low behind the couch, one hand clutching Rex's collar, the other trembling as it gripped her service pistol. Benny stayed under the table, wide eyes shimmering, clutching his bear so tightly the seams strained. Carter motioned with 2 fingers. "Stay down." Then he slipped toward the front window, rifle tight against his shoulder. His breath fogged against the glass. There. A shadow moved across the yard, pausing just at the edge of the porch light. A man. Another followed, crouched low. Rifles slung. Military precision in their steps. Not cops. Hired guns. Carter's pulse steadied, years of training taking over. He raised the rifle, exhaled slow, and squeezed. The shot shattered the silence. The figure dropped, snow exploding around him. Rex barked wildly, lunging toward the door. Joanna flinched but held firm, whispering, "Easy, boy." Outside, chaos erupted. Shouts cut through the storm. Gunfire cracked back, bullets slamming into the wood siding, shattering glass. Benny screamed, ducking lower. "Move!" Carter barked, shoving Joanna and Rex toward the cellar door. He scooped Benny from under the table, shielding him with his body as splinters rained down. They tumbled into the cellar just as another round ripped through the living room window. Carter slammed the door shut above them. Darkness swallowed them whole, broken only by Benny's quick sobs and Joanna's ragged breaths. The cellar smelled of damp earth and oil. Old jars lined the shelves. Carter found the lantern, lit it, the flicker casting long shadows on their faces. Joanna's eyes burned into him. "Who are they?" "Not law enforcement," Carter answered grimly. "Too disciplined for common thugs. Cartel muscle, maybe. Alden's cleanup crew." Her face drained of color. Benny clung to Carter's neck. "Dad? They're gonna hurt us, aren't they?" Carter forced his voice steady. "Not while I'm here." Joanna's hand shook as she reached into her jacket. She pulled out a small flash drive, wrapped in tape, edges worn from being handled too often. "This is what they want." Her voice broke. Every transaction, every name. The sheriff, his deputies, judges, even federal contacts. "I copied everything before they wiped the system." Carter stared. "And you carried this around, waiting to get killed with it?" Her eyes flared. "I didn't have a choice." The weight of it settled between them. Proof of corruption. A reason men outside were ready to die and kill in the snow. Above, footsteps creaked across the floorboards. Muffled voices barked orders. They were inside. Rex stiffened, ears twitching, a low growl vibrating from his chest. Carter lowered Benny to the ground. He gripped Joanna's arm. "Basement hatch. Old storm tunnel out back. You and Benny go." Her eyes widened. "And you? I'll buy you time." Benny's small voice broke. "No, Dad." Carter crouched, hands firm on his son's shoulders. His eyes locked on Benny's. "You protect her now. That's your mission. You understand me? Benny's chin quivered. Then he nodded. Rex whined, torn between master and mission. Carter gave him a sharp look. Go. Guard them. The dog hesitated only a second before pressing to Joanna's side. Ready. Carter pressed the rifle tight, eyes steel. Go. Now. Joanna led Benny and Rex toward the back hatch, lantern shaking in her hand. Carter waited until they slipped into the tunnel, the hatch closing silently behind them. Then he turned, alone in the cellar. The first intruder's boots hit the steps above. Carter raised his rifle, jaw set. The soldier in him had been sleeping for years, but tonight the war had come home, and he would not let it take his family. The cellar door creaked. Dust fell from the ceiling beams as boots pressed against old wood. Carter crouched low, rifle steady, breath measured. The first intruder descended the steps, flashlight beam cutting across the darkness. Carter waited until the man's silhouette filled the lantern's faint glow. Then one controlled shot. The intruder crumpled soundlessly, collapsing on the steps. His rifle clattered against the stone floor. Shouts erupted above. Heavy footsteps thundered. Two more shadows filled the doorway. Carter grabbed the fallen man's weapon, slung it over his back, and pulled into cover behind an old shelf. Splinters burst as bullets tore through the cellar walls. Mason jars shattered, glass raining down. He gritted his teeth. Too many of them. Need to buy time. Meanwhile, in the storm tunnel, Joanna's lantern shook wildly, shadows dancing across the damp stone. Benny stumbled beside her, Rex guiding them forward, his body pressed close against the boy like a shield. The tunnel was narrow, built decades ago when the ranch had been used for storage. It smelled of earth and rust. Snow had seeped in through cracks, freezing puddles across the floor. Keep moving, Joanna urged, voice tight. Benny's breath came fast, fogging in the lantern light. Where does this go? To the shed. Back of the property, she whispered. Stay close. Rex growled suddenly, ears flicking. His hackles rose. Joanna froze. She raised the lantern. A shadow blocked the tunnel ahead. A man, gun drawn. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Drop it, the man hissed. His accent was thick, his stance steady. Not local. Hired muscle. Benny whimpered. Joanna shoved him behind her, drawing her pistol with trembling hands. Rex lunged, teeth flashing. The man fired. The bullet ricocheted off stone, sparks raining. Joanna squeezed the trigger twice, shots deafening in the narrow passage. The intruder stumbled back, blood streaking the tunnel wall. Rex tore into him, growls echoing like thunder. Rex! Joanna shouted, dragging Benny past as the man collapsed. The dog ripped free, then bounded back to her side, muzzle red. Back in the cellar, Carter ducked as gunfire shredded the shelves above him. He slid along the wall, tossing a broken jar across the room. The intruder's lights flicked toward the sound. Carter rose, rifle braced, 3 precise shots cutting through the dark. One man dropped. The other staggered, cursing. The cellar shook with violence. Carter's ears rang, but he pushed forward, tackling the last man into the stone wall. They grappled, fists slamming, rifle clattering away. The intruder swung a knife. Carter twisted, the blade grazing his arm. Pain seared, but adrenaline drove him. He slammed the man's head into the wall once, twice, until the body went limp. Blood dripped onto the dirt floor. Carter's chest heaved. Then silence, but only for a moment. A voice drifted from above, cold, deliberate. Well done, Daniels. Carter froze. Sheriff Alden stepped into view at the cellar door, silhouetted in the lantern light, a revolver gleaming in his hand. His hat shadowed his eyes, but the smirk was unmistakable. You always did have a knack for killing, Alden drawled. Thought retirement might have dulled it. Guess not. Carter raised his rifle, but Alden was faster. The revolver's hammer cocked, aimed squarely at him. Easy now, the sheriff sneered. Wouldn't want your boy to grow up an orphan. Carter's pulse spiked. Where are they? Alden's smirk widened. The woman and the kid? Don't worry. My men will find them before the tunnel lets out. You'll get to watch. In the tunnel, Joanna and Benny burst through the hatch into the shed. The lantern's flame sputtered in the cold. Rex darted out first, nose to the wind, body rigid. Joanna shoved the hatch closed, heart pounding. She turned and froze. Two deputies stood at the shed's entrance, rifles trained on her. Well, well, one sneered. Sheriff's been looking for you, Hayes. Benny gasped, clutching Rex. The dog snarled, fur bristling. Joanna raised her pistol, but her hands shook too hard. The deputies laughed. Then one of them pulled out his radio. Sheriff, we got him. Back in the cellar, Alden's radio crackled. His smirk sharpened as he listened. See, Daniels, he said. It's over. Carter's jaw clenched. His grip on the rifle tightened. But deep inside, the soldier in him knew this was only the beginning. The cellar air was heavy with gunpowder and blood. Carter stood perfectly still, rifle raised but useless against Alden's revolver, the metal glinting inches from his chest. Put it down, Alden ordered, his voice smooth, almost casual. You've killed enough of my men for one night. Carter didn't move. His finger rested on the trigger, but his soldier's instinct measured the angles. Too far, too slow. Alden would fire before he could. The sheriff cocked his head, studying him. Funny, isn't it? All those years you spent fighting for your country, and now you're just a farmer in the middle of nowhere. You thought you could bury the past. But the past has a nasty habit of digging itself back up. Carter's voice was low, steady. You brought them here. All of them. For what? Alden's smirk curled like smoke. For her. And for what she stole. In the shed, Joanna's breath fogged as the two deputies inched closer. Benny clung to her coat. Rex pressed against him like a wall of muscle, a low growl rumbling in his chest. The taller deputy jabbed his rifle toward her. On your knees, Hayes. Sheriff wants you alive. But he didn't say you had to be comfortable. Joanna's eyes flicked to the lantern flame trembling on the wall. Her pulse hammered. She could see the boy's terror reflected in the glass, could hear Rex's growl building like thunder. She knelt slowly, lowering her pistol to the floor. The deputies grinned. One reached for the radio again, and that's when Rex lunged. The dog exploded forward with a snarl, jaws clamping on the man's arm. The rifle went off, a deafening blast tearing through the shed roof. Benny screamed. Joanna dove for the lantern, hurling it into the other deputy's face. Flames burst, licking across the man's jacket. He shrieked, clawing at himself, dropping his weapon. Joanna seized it, swung it around, and fired. The burning man dropped in a heap. The other deputy tried to wrench his arm free from Rex's jaws, but the dog tore deeper, crimson spraying across the straw-strewn floor. Joanna fired once more. Silence slammed into the shed. Benny clutched Rex, sobbing into his fur. Joanna's chest heaved, smoke curling around her. She swallowed the bile in her throat and forced herself to stand. Come on, she rasped. We don't have time. In the cellar, Carter's jaw tightened. You're using my home, my land, to stage this. Alden chuckled, lowering the revolver just slightly, as if savoring the moment. This isn't about you, Daniels. Never was. Hayes thought she could run with what she took. She thought the law would protect her. But the law is me, and I don't share power. Carter's grip whitened on the rifle. What did she take? The sheriff leaned closer, his breath reeking of whiskey. Evidence. Enough to burn half the county down. My deals, my men, the money, the blood. And she thought she'd turn it over to the feds. Fool woman. He pressed the revolver harder into Carter's chest. Now hand her over, or I'll start with you. Joanna shoved open the shed doors. The night hit her like ice, stars buried behind racing clouds. The wind carried voices, men shouting across the property. Searchlights cut through the snow, sweeping closer. She crouched low, dragging Benny and Rex with her through the drifts. Her heart thundered. Every step cracked the ice like glass. Stay down, she hissed. They slipped behind a woodpile. Footsteps pounded past, flashlights sweeping just inches away. Benny's teeth chattered. Joanna, where's Carter? She swallowed hard. We'll get him. But inside, doubt gnawed like fire. In the cellar, Carter's soldier's mind raced. Every instinct screamed not to surrender. But Benny's face rose in his thoughts. Joanna's determination. Rex's unflinching loyalty. He couldn't lose them. Not to Alden. Not like this. Carter slowly lowered the rifle. Clattered onto the dirt floor. Alden's grin widened. Smart man. But as the sheriff leaned closer, Carter lunged. He grabbed the revolver, twisting it sideways, slamming Alden against the stone wall. The gun roared, deafening, the bullet punching into the ceiling. They grappled, fists and fury. Alden's strength surprised him, fueled by arrogance and rage. Carter drove his knee into the sheriff's gut, wrenching the revolver free. But Alden was fast. He smashed a fist into Carter's wounded arm, pain exploding white-hot. The revolver slipped. Both men scrambled. The gun skittered across the dirt. Boots thundered overhead. More men were coming. Carter's pulse pounded. He knew he had seconds before the cellar flooded with enemies. Seconds to decide. Outside, Joanna pulled Benny into the barn, slamming the door behind them. The dark reeked of hay and oil. She pressed her back against the wall, chest heaving. Rex paced, ears pricked, growl low. Joanna clenched the stolen rifle, eyes burning. We're not running anymore, she whispered. Benny stared at her, trembling. What do we do? Her answer came out like steel. We fight. In the cellar, Alden rose slowly, wiping blood from his mouth. His eyes blazed with hatred. You just signed your death warrant, Daniels. Carter stared back, fists clenched, the weight of the war pressing into his bones. But his voice was steady. You first. And above them, the sound of splintering would shatter the night. The real war had begun. The night was no longer silent. Gunfire cracked across the Daniels ranch, echoing through the snowy fields. Floodlights swept the ground like prison search beams. Men shouted orders, boots crunching over ice, rifles raised. The ranch had become a war zone. Carter pressed himself against the stone wall as splinters rained down. Bullets punched through the wooden hatch above. Dust clouded the air, stinging his lungs. He snatched the fallen revolver, spinning the cylinder with shaking hands. 2 bullets left. Only 2. The hatch burst open. Armed men dropped down the steps. Carter fired once. 1 man crumpled. The second lunged, tackling him to the ground. The revolver skidded away. Carter roared, grappling, fists pounding bone. The intruder clawed for his knife. Carter twisted, slamming the man's head into the stone until it stilled. His knuckles dripped blood, but he staggered to his feet, chest heaving. Above him, Sheriff Alden's voice thundered through the chaos. Find the boy. Bring me Hayes. Joanna crouched behind stacked hay bales. Benny curled beside her. Rex pressed close. Through the cracks in the wall, she could see shadows moving outside, flashlights slicing through the snow. Her stolen rifle felt heavy, but her hands no longer shook. Something inside her had hardened. Joanna! Benny's voice quivered. Are we gonna die? She cupped his face, forcing him to meet her eyes. Not tonight. Rex growled low, muscles tensed. The boy gripped his collar tight. Joanna rose slowly, aiming the rifle toward the door. Every nerve in her body screamed, but she didn't waver. She'd run long enough. The ranch lit up with chaos. Intruders spread out, sweeping the snow with flashlights, shouting to each other. 2 men moved toward the barn, rifles raised. Joanna fired first. The shot tore through the night, 1 man dropping instantly. The other spun, firing wildly at the barn. Bullets shredded the wood, hay bursting into the air. Joanna ducked, pulling Benny to the ground. Rex lunged through the doorway, slamming into the man's chest, dragging him down into the snow. The rifle fired once, harmless into the sky, before Rex's jaws silenced him forever. The yard erupted. Shouts, gunfire, shadows converging. Joanna grabbed Benny's hand. Run! They bolted into the snow, Rex bounding ahead. Joanna's heart thundered as bullets snapped past, the night a blur of light and fire. Carter burst up the hatch, dragging himself into the freezing air. His breath poured out in clouds, eyes scanning the chaos. He saw the barn aflame, saw Joanna and Benny sprinting through the snow, Rex at their heels. Men gave chase, rifles flashing. And then he saw Alden. The sheriff stood at the porch of the farmhouse, calm amid the storm, revolver gleaming in his hand. His voice carried above the chaos. "Bring me the boy alive. Kill the rest." Carter's blood boiled. His vision narrowed to a tunnel. His family, his land, his war. He raised his rifle and fired. One man dropped. Another spun, screaming. Carter advanced through the snow, every step steady, every shot precise. The soldier had awakened. Joanna and Benny stumbled behind the tractor, bullets slamming into the metal frame. Rex barked furiously, pacing like a wolf protecting its den. "Stay down," Joanna hissed. The snow exploded beside them. Carter dropped to one knee, rifle smoking, eyes blazing. "Carter!" Joanna cried. He slid in beside them, reloading with trembling hands. His gaze locked on hers, bloodied, bruised, but alive. "You okay?" She nodded, pulling Benny close. "We can't outrun them." "No," Carter said, eyes cutting toward the farmhouse where Alden stood. "We end it here." Alden descended the porch steps slowly, like a man strolling into church. His revolver gleamed in the floodlight, his grin a slash of arrogance. "Well, look at that," he drawled. "The soldier and the runaway. How touching." He raised the revolver, pointing at Benny. "Send me the boy, and maybe I'll let you keep breathing." Benny whimpered, clinging to Joanna's coat. Rex bared his teeth, growl vibrating the frozen ground. Carter stepped forward, rifle aimed squarely at Alden. "You want him? You'll have to go through me." The sheriff laughed. "I was hoping you'd say that." The yard went silent. The storm held its breath. Then fire erupted. Bullets tore through the night as Carter and Alden exchanged fire. Joanna joined in, her rifle cracking, cutting down the sheriff's men as they charged. Rex lunged into the fray, teeth and fury. The snow became a battlefield. Shouts, screams, gunfire, blood. Carter pressed forward, relentless, his rifle an extension of his will. He cut down man after man, until only Alden remained. Standing in the snow, revolver raised, breath fogging in the icy air. The two men faced each other, the world narrowing to their standoff. "You should have stayed in the past, Daniels," Alden hissed. "And you," Carter growled, "should have stayed out of my home." They fired. The shots cracked as one. Carter staggered, pain searing his side. But Alden dropped, his chest blooming red, revolver slipping from his hand. The sheriff gasped once, hatred still burning in his eyes. Then the snow swallowed him whole. Silence fell. The yard was littered with bodies. The farmhouse smoldered, flames licking the windows. The storm carried smoke into the sky. Carter collapsed to one knee, clutching his wound. Joanna rushed to him, Benny sobbing against her side. "You're hurt," she whispered. "I'll live," he rasped, eyes on Benny. "As long as he's safe." Rex pressed against them, muzzle stained but eyes fierce, unbroken. Joanna looked at the boy, then at Carter, then back at the burning farmhouse. "It's over." Carter's gaze lingered on the sheriff's body in the snow. His voice was gravel. "No, it's just beginning." Because deep down, he knew Alden's rot went further than this ranch. There were names, deals, secrets, and tonight was only the spark. But for now, for this moment, his family was alive. He pulled them close, snow falling silent around them, flames painting the night sky. And as the storm swallowed the last echoes of gunfire, the Daniels Ranch stood scarred but unbroken. And that brings our story to a close. But remember, this channel isn't just about stories. It's about the community we're building together. Every view, every comment, every moment you share here helps us grow stronger, reach further, and keep creating the kind of narratives that move you. So if tonight's journey kept you on the edge of your seat, take a second to hit that like button, share this video with a friend who loves a good story, and subscribe so you never miss what's coming next. Your support isn't just appreciated. It's the reason this channel exists. Thank you for watching, thank you for believing, and thank you for being part of this story. Until next time, stay inspired, stay relentless, and I'll see you in the next chapter.